Welcome to the Epic Success Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Shannon Irvine. Okay, today is something that I have been really feeling so called to talk about and teach on the podcast. Because after coaching thousands of entrepreneurs, one thing that I've found about high performers that have big dreams, that have big visions, that are taking actions, but also start to feel like they are stuck. I mean, just that self-doubt that creeps in when things don't go the way the shiny, glossy marketing packet taught us it would. Right? We trust this system that says if you do this strategy, it'll work. And then you do everything that they say and it doesn't work. And then it leaves you kind of doubting your capacity. It leaves you still desiring the outcome, but having different questions. So today's podcast is all about getting unstuck. It's all about peeling back those blocks, those blind spots, and those obstacles that slow you down. And right now, more than ever in our lives, we need to have speed toward our goals. Because in a changing economy, and really anytime, we really want to create our own economy. So today's podcast is all about that. It's how do we take control back and really understand how to identify our blind spots, our blocks, and our obstacles so that we can remove them once and for all. So we're going to be in a series all around the 67-day year method, how you train your brain to actually allow success to come in. And this is the first kind of phase of it. I talked a little bit about it last week, but I'm going to go deep dive with you today. So I hope you really like this podcast. Let me know in Instagram what your big takeaway was and tag me. All right, here we go.
Hey, it is day 2 for our 67-day year client only event. Who was like massively inspired by everyone declaring what they're doing? Oh my goodness. I was in my house just like jumping for joy for you. This declaration that comes from, or this openness that comes from really settling in on what you want, the texture of what you want the next 3 months to be. But here's what I want to do. I want to talk a little bit about the 67-day year method in your hands. So how do I create this? I am really reacting and changing and creating for the people that are in the room, because you're the action takers, you're showing up, you're taking the action that I know you're going to create the 67-day year. The world is overloaded with information. Am I right? Information upon information upon information. And so something in my heart for you, I love you guys so much, is to help you take information, let it become inspiration so that it can become revelation, so it can take you into complete action. I don't want you to be consumers anymore, right? And so this is what today is about. It's about showing you how to have a goal, meaningful goals. We're going to talk about meaningful goals today. How to actually create it in a way that is different than what you've done before, right? Because before we subscribe to the old broken model of set goals plus work my rear end off equals success. And I know the people that are in this room are the smartest people on the planet. And I also know that you work hard. I know that you guys aren't chilling on the couch unless you get an overwhelm, and then you chill on the couch and then you feel guilty. And then you go back to your to-do list and you start doing things that don't actually move the needle. But that's okay. That's what we do, right? Because we're high performers, we're high achievers. We have to keep in motion. Yet that conversation that you shared with me yesterday of when you haven't hit your goal yet and you're starting to say things to yourself, those blind spots that come up like, who am I? Why can't I do this again? Why am I circulating back to this again? Why haven't I figured this out? Or revelation is going to push you into a new environment. Because remember, the environment that kept the goals going slowly, that kept you kind of stuck, isn't the same environment that's going to push you. And so lovingly, I am going to give you a tool today, and then I'm gonna put you in an environment where you can fly, where you can get unchained. You know, somebody asked me when I was at the mastermind last week with Pete Vargas, you know, what's the one thing that lights you up the most about what you do? And typical rule breaker, I'm like, well, there's two. One is I love coaching coaches. I love helping people who are helping people have the brain-based model of transformation so they can really transform people's lives, not just give them a lot of information. And then I said, it's in a close, that's the close second to the first one. And the first one is this: I want to see each and every one of you break those chains that have been holding you back. I want to see those chains get cut off your feet so that you can fly. And when I have private conversations, when I'm talking with my 7-figure coach group, you know, one of the things that I hear over and over again is that feeling of like, there's just so much more in me. And I know like I'm meant for more. And you know what? You're right. I believe God planted in you that 1% that only you have. And so you're right. You have given more than you've actually gotten access to yet. And so today I want to talk through that and really give you the tools and then give you an environment where you can really start to thrive. What isn't as if it is, right? By the way, and that's exactly what God did in creation. He spoke into existence what wasn't as if it was, and then it became. And so there's a clue there in how your brain actually creates things. You've got people out teaching manifestation in a way that doesn't align with how your brain is actually wired, right? There were 3 anchors, 3 blocks, 3 weights. As we're talking about cutting those chains and flying, right? So these we learned are anchors or weights. We talked about these blocks to your speed, right? We talked about how we can have 1,000 different methods to create income. And okay, check this out. If you're sitting here saying, I don't have enough audience to do the thing that I'm called to do, your mind's about to get broken. This is environment. This is being in proximity and environment where people will not let your blind spots run you, not keep you chained. 12 on her email list. She has 8 clients. 8 clients, y'all. Hear that? Let that land. 8 clients, 12 on the list. You don't despise small beginnings. Now, I see the same thing she sees. She's trusted me with her vision, and I see her on stages. I see all the things that she sees, and I know it's coming to pass. But the reason it's coming to pass is, I mean, who else wants an 80% close rate? Anybody? Anybody else? Woo! I'll take it. I'll take it. I'll take it. So here's the thing. This is proximity of environment. So why am I bringing up environment? Because here's the thing. Blind spots can take us out, can't they? The thing we don't know because we're too close to it. And when I asked you what you're telling yourself when you know you haven't hit the goal, a lot of those blind spots surfaced, right? A lot of those blind spots surfaced. And guess what? I can't see my own blind spots either. So there's not this like, you know, oh, I'm sitting on a rock and I see all my blind spots and I need to, no. Blind spots are blind spots to everyone. That's why you need to be in an environment that holds your vision and holds you to the vision you see behind your eyes. So I was in a mastermind. I just talked about the one I was just in, but I'm thinking about environment and obstacles getting in the way. We talked about obstacles getting in the way. We talked about just not having the, how do I do this, right? What do I do? What's the map? How do I take the steps? Like we're fine until we're like doing things we've always done. But when we step over that line, that's when the gremlins come in and they start telling you all the things, you know, who are you, all those things you don't know. How? I don't know how. And we park our intuition and we ask everybody else and we chase 1,000 different rabbits trying to get to the results because this person says this and this person says this and this person says this. But all the while you have this intuition telling you this is the way, walk in it. And in this first mastermind I was in was the first experience that I had with environment changing the blind spots, environment changing the obstacles. And we're going to talk about that today, because here's the thing. Prior to that mastermind, I walked alone. Any lone wolves in the room? Any lone wolves? We're like, but Shannon, my head's down. I'm working, but you know it. Like if we were sitting across from each other, you know it. You hit those blocks, and what do? Settle back. Getting a little too big for your britches, girlfriend. You know, maybe you should think about going back to that job. The lone wolf syndrome that I didn't even recognize was the thing that was taking me out. And not having the accountability, because let's just be real, every one of you in your environment, meaning in the people around you, you seem amazing, don't you? I mean, come on, you're doing huge things, way bigger than they're doing. And what I hate to say it, it's true in my life. Are they pushing you up? Or are they pulling you back? So environment matters. And I remember the first day of being in an environment with somebody that I respected, in a room of colleagues that were going somewhere. I'd never had that experience before. You know, I don't see any guys here. Maybe there's a guy on mute here, but here's the thing. It's rare growing up that women support women. I see the heads moving. It's rare. The people that know you the best, that seen you at your worst, that seen that they say, yes, I see that greatness in you. If you have somebody like that in your life, love them up, because here's the thing. Most of us, our environment reminds us to play small. Most of us, our environment, the things we see with our eyes, push us to less, not more. So in that room, in that mastermind room, I sat down really scared because there was a lot of people a lot further ahead than me. Okay, so I was the small fish in the big pond, which is what I always strive to be. If I'm the big fish in the big pond, I tend to jump ponds, not because I'm not loving that person, but because I want to be scared. I want to be that person that doesn't know in the room. Now that took some time. I just accidentally fell into that in that mastermind. And it was the first experience that I had with someone that was a woman that asked me for the vision that I had, and not only saw that, but saw it times 10. That gave me permission to actually speak out. I'd already seen it times 10 in my head, but I wasn't going to speak it. I saw it, but I wasn't going to say it, because if I said it, what happens? Then I had to sow it. Then I had to actually go out there and try to do that thing. So by raise of hands, who's got that bigger vision that you're not even like talking about because it scares you to death? And you're like, but if I say it, I mean, I see it, but if I say it, then I gotta, whew. So I was in this room and she started speaking out what she saw in me. And then she also did this crazy thing. She showed me my blind spot. And my first thing was to be like, nuh-uh, I'm not impatient. I am fantastically patient. I could sit up. No, it was like to the core. And it was the thing that was having me jump from thing to thing to thing to thing to thing to thing to thing. Anybody? Whoop, jump in a thing, didn't get results, jump over here, didn't get results, jump over here. I'm moving, feels busy. Anybody? Okay, Now that might not be yours. I see some of you it's yours, but not everybody. She did me a $3 million favor, because if I hadn't been in that room, and if I didn't hear what was possible from people 10 steps ahead of me, and if I didn't have that woman, which erased all of that baggage from the past, that woman that said, I'm going to walk by you, I'm going to stand by you, I'm going to hold your vision higher than you sometimes. And that blind spot, what got you there won't get you there. You got to let it go. And it was in that turning that I actually made the decision to go figure out how to do that. You guys have heard that story. I don't want to bore you with that story again about how I took a hard right and how I went into those PhD rooms and then discovered what God had already created, which is a very obvious path of transformation in the mind and the very obvious way to remove them. Why we don't learn this from second grade on, I have no idea, but that's the mission, right? So hard right. You guys don't even know yet what your hard right is. Alignment creates that assignment, and it's coming. But putting myself in that environment that allowed me to open the door to see the blind spots and then get obsessed enough about removing that blind spot that brought me into those rooms, that made me the crazy person, only person of faith, only entrepreneur in these scientific rooms. If I tell you, nobody in there wanted me in there. They were like, woman, let's get this girl out of here, because she is like, whoo. Because why? Because I was trying to solve our problem, our glass ceiling. I was trying to cut the chains off my feet. I was tired of feeling that chain on my feet. You can't see me because I'm lifting my foot up, but I was so tired of it. And I'm wondering if anybody in the room right now is tired of that feeling. No, better yet, fed up with that feeling. With that feeling that something's on my ankle. It doesn't belong there. I'm meant to fly. I'm meant to impact. I am meant to change lives. I am meant to empower my family, to break generational curses, to leave. When I say legacy, a lot of times the Lambro community changes legacy into this thing of things that you leave. I don't want to leave anything. I want to give it all away before I go, but I want to impact as many people as possible. One of my big goals, again, I always say here because you can't see it, is to get to the point where I'm giving 90% of what I make away, changing the lives of the orphans in Uganda. I want you to tell me for a second, what's that big dream? Be brave. Do you see yourself on big stages? You see yourself writing that book? Do you see yourself partnering with amazing people? What do you see behind your eyes? This room gives you permission to see that, to say that, and to start to sow that. Don't expect you're going to take the small steps out there, right? Okay. Who needed this today? Who needed to hear this today? I'm always gonna be in the place. I am not your, this is gonna sound funny because even saying it feels uncomfortable to me. I am not a guru. I am not an influencer. I never want that. I am a life changer. I am somebody that I don't create anything other than cutting those chains off your feet. Today, we're going to break down the 67-year method. This method I've used over and over again. Pieces and parts of it are inside Epic Success. I got to tell you a little bit about that too, because that is actually, don't worry, I'm not going to leave you hanging, but we're going to sunset that version of Epic Success. And I'm going to talk about that here in a minute. Don't worry, something better's coming. We're going to talk about the 67-day-year method, and we're going to talk about also, and I talked about this yesterday, what do we do when obstacles come? Because they're coming. Whether it's your daughter who's a teenager, preteen, crying and pulling your emotions down to big things, right? Houses and people and families. And if you're alive, you're going to have some kind of obstacle. So I want to give you the tool to come over that and not let that be the thing that takes the chains and pulls you back down, right? It's coming. November's coming, y'all. I just want to warn you. So when the fear starts to be thrown at you in the environment that we're in, you shut it off. Step one was yesterday. I'm going to forgive $10,000 worth of student debt. I don't want you to want to be forgiven of debt. I want you to make so much money and so much impact. This isn't a political thing. This is just a fear thing, because what's going to come on the other side of it, they like the people that took those loans, they're making too much money to get that forgiveness, which is funny. And then the people who are in that scenario, by the way, at a level of middle class, your taxes went up way more than $10,000. Interesting. Interesting. Why am I talking about this? I don't care one way or another, because you know what? The government does not control my destiny. I create my economy. I want you to write that down. I create my economy. I don't care if it's Ronald McDonald in the office. I don't care if it's Biden. I don't care if it's Trump. I don't care. I mean, I care. I care because I care what impacts people, but it will not take me out of the game. Why? Because as long as I have breath in my lungs, I want you to say this. I want you to write this down. As long as I have breath in my lungs, I create my own economy. And I create my own economy because I care for people and I solve problems. I could take you through every recession. I could take you through every house slump. I could take you from the history, wars. Guess who does fine the whole time? Care for people, solve their problems. Yeah, I know there's a lot more steps than that, Shannon. Like, I want to do that. Can we just flip that switch on? And then tomorrow I am like on the big stage. Can we do that? Don't worry, we're going to get there with a 67-day map. But I want you to own your own economy. Because if we're in a scenario of fear, I don't care what I teach you, the part of your brain that fires off when fear is in the front seat driving will not allow you to see what you need to see in order to take the step. It shuts down intuition, by the way. The part of your mind that fires for intuition is completely silent when fear is in the front seat. So I'm a little mad right now. This is holy anger, I guess. This is kind of the feeling I imagine Jesus had when he went in and like threw tables over, because it's like, not on my watch, not on my watch. Like the genius that's in this room, holy discontentment, because you should all be on stages. You should all have your books because your 1% is needed in the world. Okay, I'm going to stop with the inspiration. We're also going to talk about how environment creates speed. So those are the three things. So I have a question for you. When you're alone, you put your head on the pillow or you're sitting there just kind of thinking, you know, when your mind just does its thing and kind of hard to stop it. You know what I'm talking about? What's the one thing, just one, there's probably more, but what's the one thing that I call it that haunting thought, like that you really wish you had now? Like you really wish, a couple of you said, oh gosh, I'm here again. What's that? Like, what's the one thing that you know if you had it, or you're already telling yourself, if I just had this, I know it would all work. And you're probably saying it in reverse. You're saying, why don't I have that? Why haven't I figured that out? Why am I here again? What is that one thing that if I was able to just magically just give it to you, you know that the chains would start coming off. You know it. In the 7 and 8 figure and 9 figure mastermind I was just in, the number one thing was I start, it's really hard for me to finish. And they get frustrated because they start and then they hire people to finish. And so we're going to talk about that in the 67-day method. So completion, courage. Bobby says weight loss. So just getting that part of your life that is an anchor to set you free. And it's interesting how something like that, by the way, I've been there. I called it, I put on Texas 20, like literally 20 pounds in 1 year, which is not usually for me because I'm an athletic person. And I knew that it was a new way to get me to not finish. It was a coping mechanism. I see greatness in all of you. Some I know better than others, but here's what I do know. There's greatness in you that you have not realized yet. So in that statement of unstoppability, is, darn it, why do I keep stopping? Why do I keep stopping? Ugh. But that's just a different way to say consistency. That's just a different way to say commitment. Do you see that? You see how our brains work? The thing that changed that for me, again, I told you the story about the mastermind, was being in the environment, not just being in a room. You guys are in other rooms, right? Raise your hand if you're in other rooms. You're in other programs, you're in other rooms, right? You're all that stuff, right? You got to be in a room where you're seen, where you're known, not just you, but you 2.0. You know, that declaration, that version of you, you need that needs to be known too, right? So that when your blind spots come up, when a word comes up, we love you and have the tools to keep you going. It's everything. It's everything. And it was literally the game changer. Finding out that I actually could train my own brain and figuring out the method for it, hacking myself. Yes, but being in that room, the environment. But what do high performers usually do? We're lone wolfers, man. We're going, we don't want to acknowledge our failures. So we're like, ugh, blind spot. Ugh, and we just keep trying to walk forward. But at the same time, those things are like attaching to our back, and those chains are getting heavier and heavier and heavier. About speed, you know, like time, I can't get yesterday back. You can't get to tomorrow with those chains on your feet. You can't get to the things you see behind your eyes with a belief that you're not enough, with a belief that no one will listen. And it breaks my heart because I know how much you can change the world. I know there's unrealized blessings coming your way. I know that there is everything you think of, everything you've written down and more available to you. But we lone wolf it. We keep throwing things in our backpack as we're swatting them away, not realizing it's the very thing that's weighting us down. So, sorry, you got me a little emotional today. I love you guys. I care for you, and I want to see you be able to pace together, so that you're never unseen again, so that your vision never dulls again, so that you don't play that version that's still bigger than everybody else. So nobody gives you tension, but you know.
Right? Mind blown. I cannot wait to hear how this particular podcast impacted you, because I know if you really take what you heard today and apply it, everything starts to shift. And the dreams, the visions, the goals that you have, that you feel like have been kind of an open loop and haven't been going as fast as you want, starts picking up speed. Now, next week, I'm going to be diving deeper into the 67-day method. What is it? How do you apply it? How the old broken industrial era goal setting plus hard work equals success is why it's the tool that is broken that you've been using. And I'm going to give you a different, modern, new, updated tool so that you can gain that traction, that momentum, and that speed towards your goal. All right, that's what I have for you this week. I can't wait to be back with you next week on the Epic Success Podcast. Bye for now.